Hi there and welcome. Today we are going to talk about public speaking. Let me find somewhere to put this. Let's have a little look. All right. Good. See me okay? Everything going okay? It's maybe a little bit darker over here actually, isn't it? Let's maybe see if I can put this here. Make it look a bit brighter. There we go. And stay. All right. Now, so what we're going to talk about today is public speaking. And I'm actually waiting for somebody specific to come online right now that I know is interested in this content. So I'm going to draw an actual thing out until I see them pop on. So I want to kind of give to you some tips and tricks that I have used and seen that have benefited me for becoming a speaker. Things that I've witnessed and noticed as I've spoken myself, things that I know that work, things that I know that don't work. Let's just see who this is. Are you online? Yes, you're on. Give me thumbs up. So I'm going to give you some tips and tricks that I have had and that I've learned as a public speaker. Because, the truth of the matter is, So the truth of the matter is that not a lot of people know this. Should I say it? Should I not say it? Yeah, whatever. I totally bullshitted my way on stage. I was asked if I had spoken before, and I was like, hell yeah, I've spoken before. I'd never spoken before. I had never spoken before. But what I did know was this. I actually had been preparing for it because I was actually due to become a speaker for the company Rich Dad Poor Dad. And they were going through a transitional, they were being sued was what was happening. They used to be called something else because they teach it very differently. They kind of have like a company underneath that really does the teaching. And the Rich Dad Poor Dad is actually, it's actually a face for a different brand. It's not really the same thing. The content is not produced by Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's the best way of explaining it. It's actually produced by a guy called Russ Whitney, who is an incredibly smart, very, very, very smart guy. Anyway, so although I bullshitted my way on stage a bit, I knew that I could do it and I had been preparing for it, right? So I do my first thing to go on stage, and actually, funny story. So this company calls me up, they're like, have you spoken on stage before? I'm like, yeah. They were like, we need you, would you be interested in doing your first speaking thing in Orlando? And I was like, yeah, it's just up the street. I was like, yeah, of course I'll do it in Orlando. So I was like, well, what do you want me to talk about? And he's like, look, come up with somewhere between 4 to 9 hours of content. I'm like, whoa, it's a true story. I'm like, whoa. Do you want 4 hours of content or do you want 9 hours of content? Because there's a big fucking difference between 4 hours and 9 hours of content. Yeah, well, you know what? Thanks for saying I'm brave, but you know what it is? I'm more like I'm up for the challenge of it. So it's like if you lay down a challenge, I've got to take that challenge on. Especially when it's based around business, because like business to me is a passion. It's not just something I do. It's something that I grew up in a very big entrepreneurial, my parents were very big entrepreneurs. They created a very large company. They were very, very successful. They revolutionized their industry. And I got to be a part of that growth and watch it unfold. So kind of living in that entrepreneurial world is all I've ever known. I've never known about, like a 9-to-5 job and, being like college educated and stuff. I left school at 16 and I saw my parents fail, and then I saw them sell their business for $20 million. So I know what it's like to kind of be in that entrepreneurial world. And my parents never pushed me in any direction. They were like, I was never told, no, you can't go for that. You know, don't reach for the stars. You know, I was like, my parents were always like, if you want it, go for it, do it, make it happen. So that's kind of the world that I grew up in. So, and the reason I say that is kind of like pulling it back to the speaking thing is that's why I was prepared for it. I'd kind of lived in that entrepreneurial world and I knew that I wanted to be a speaker. So, so I've been prepping to do this Rich Dad Poor Dad stuff. Anyway, so what happened then was, so carrying on with that, you want 4 hours or do you want 9 hours of content? Big difference. So we get to like, I think it was like a week before the event, big event in Orlando. And he calls me up and he's like, look, have you got your content ready? I'm like, yeah. I was like, but how much do you really need? He's like, I need probably somewhere between 5 to 10 hours of content. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, hang on a minute. 1 minute was 4 to 9 hours of content. Now it's 5 to 10 hours of content. So I had to come up with 10 hours, because you can't come up with 5 hours of content if all of a sudden they then say, actually, no, you're speaking for 10 hours, which is what I used to do. Pretty much what I did. I would go on stage at 8 o'clock, at 9 o'clock in the morning. So at 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, we would start and we'd finish at 5. And then on Sunday, like 8:30, 9 again till 4:30. And I was speaking the entire time with breaks and keep people refreshed and stuff like that. So what can I teach you about public speaking? Well, what's really interesting about this is that because I lived in that entrepreneurial world, I used to be the one sitting in the audience all the time. I'd done like bazillions of seminars. So I knew by being in the audience, I knew that there were good speakers and there were bad speakers. Some speakers would put you to sleep. Other speakers would, they'd pump you up. They'd make you feel like, yeah, holy shit, I can do this. So I knew that I wanted to do that. But here was this is just hit me right now. Here's what my turning point was, though. Excuse me. I saw there's a kind of the godfather of internet marketing is a guy called Frank Kern, really highly respected, and he did his first program, and it made him tens of millions. His first program was a program called Mass Control, and on Mass Control, he gave a video of him speaking. And they introduced him on stage and he had the record, he'd sold $24 million online in 23 hours. And at the time, I guess it's been broken out because it was a fair few years ago, but at the time he had the record. No one had made as much money in such short a time online. So, I'm like, interested to hear what this guy has to say. At that point, I didn't really know too much about who this guy was, but, bought this program of his and I was interested in learning it. So they introduced him on stage and he came walking on stage and he was wearing ripped jeans, a scrappy t-shirt and flip-flops. And he started talking and he gave some of the most profound content I'd ever heard at that time. And I just had like this bolt of lightning hit me and I was like, oh shit. Maybe you don't have to be, this bravado and this bullshit and, does it really matter what clothes I'm wearing? And like, it didn't, it was a real, oh my God, you can walk on stage in jeans, flip-flops and a t-shirt. And as long as your content's good, that's really all anybody gives a shit about, is the fact that you've got good content, you've got good stuff to give them. So that was a real kind of mind shift. I feel like everything that we do in life, everything to do with success and life, it's not about what we know. It's about how our mind processes that information and shifts it. And all of a sudden, it's those aha moments, that lightning. Oh, are you kidding me? Is that all it was? It was just a mind shift. What's your biggest challenge in public speaking? The biggest challenge in public speaking is being in front. What I was going to say the biggest challenge in public speaking is the type of audience you're in front of, and that really is exactly what it is. It's making sure that you speak in front of the right people, okay? Because I've been doing a fair bit of speaking recently, and I did one at this big hotel, and it was like a big chamber event. It was a nightmare. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. Very rarely do I hate anything, but I hated it. And what I hated about it was that they didn't give a shit. And I'm trying to give like really profound content here, and they didn't give a shit. And the other thing as well is, and I learned this at the same thing, make sure they're sitting down. Don't have them standing up, because when they're standing up, it's a lot more difficult for them to keep their focus. It's really interesting, actually. All this is kind of coming to mind right now. They're not able to keep their focus so much when they're standing up, but when they're sitting down, it's almost like they're in school, right? So now they have to listen, like they're, as we were kids, we were like pre-programmed, or we were programmed, should I say, and now we are pre-programmed, that when we sit and someone is in front of us, we're going to listen to what they have to say. So what I was going to say was getting good energy from the audience, but in effect, it's actually not getting good energy from the audience. It's getting the right audience. You know, the people that actually are there to give a shit, not the people that are just there to be there. Because here's what happens is that the ones that are just there to be there, they disrupt the people that actually want to listen. So. And it was interesting because after I spoke about it, after I spoke at this event, I walked away. And here's another thing is that you have to position yourself correctly, or be positioned before you speak. That's another really, and I noticed that, right? So when I would speak, they would go, and I'm just me. I'm just Ian. I'm just normal old Ian Horton. So for me, I was and still am just me. But what I noticed they did was they positioned me, and this was back in the days when I used to speak a lot. So before I would come on stage, they would go, it's Ian. Ian Horton's come up. He was inducted into the International Investors Hall of Fame in 2009. He's a best-selling author. He's a this, he's a that, he's the other, right? Now, all of a sudden, the audience are a bit like, oh, fucking hell, maybe this guy is somebody. Whether I was or whether I wasn't, it didn't matter. It focused them up. That was what was important. It got their attention. It got them focused. So I would definitely say that you get them sitting down. I would say that you make sure that you are positioned before you walk on stage. Don't start off from the beginning. Get somebody to introduce you and make sure that they position you correctly. So whatever it is that you are whatever it is you've done in your life, you have to look at that one thing that you've done in your life, or multiple things that I've done in your life, that give you the credibility to be the speaker, and make sure that that's how they position you before you come walking on. That way, they're going to be a lot more focused. And they're going to really pay attention to what you've got to say, because you're an authority. And And that's kind of the biggest thing, is make sure that you have that authority status, and that will definitely make the process a lot easier. So what I learned, though, was building your PowerPoint presentations are really, really crucially important. Because here's the importance of the PowerPoint presentation. Most people, when they... now, other speakers may disagree with what I'm about to say. I'm just giving you my perspective and what works for me. And I believe what works for me, if it works for me, it works for anybody, because I'm no different to anybody else. So the PowerPoint presentations, the audience always believes that the PowerPoint presentations are for the audience. I actually don't view it that way. I view the PowerPoint presentation for me. It's my flow of what I'm going to talk about. Ooh, I'm going to talk. So let's say I'm going to talk about business on stage, right? So I sit at home. I usually do it at night. I usually do it during my downtime because it's my most creative thinking time. And I go, all right, I'm going to talk about business. What am I going to talk about? I'm going to talk about marketing, and I'm going to talk about sales. I'm going to talk about staff and training, systems, processes, social media. Okay, right. So they're the things I'm going to talk about. Then I bullet point all those things. And then what I do is I then put subcategories, sub-bullet points, right? So let's say we're looking at, systems. Just because I love systems. I don't know why, but I love systems and processes. I would sit there and I would go, well, what is a system? Ooh, what is a system? Write that one down. Because what it does for me is this: it triggers my train of thought. In fact, I'll give you a great one. Do I have it here? I don't think I do. I think I'm not. Maybe I have it somewhere. So I did this TV interview. Thank you. I did this TV interview on Tuesday. And they usually put my bullet points on the teleprompter, right? But I fucking hate it when they do it, if the truth be known. And here's why I hate it. Because they don't know where I'm at. So they're moving it up, they're moving it down. I'm in my head, I'm still trying to deliver this content. And I'm looking at this teleprompter that's going up and down, and they're trying to find out where I am. And it's like, if you just shut up and listen to what I'm saying, you'll be able to follow my flow. So what I actually did last time was I said, turn the teleprompter off. And I took a sheet of paper with me and I wrote my bullet points out. And I taped it with pieces of tape to the bottom of the teleprompter. And I was like, leave the teleprompter off. I've got my notes right in front of me here. They're just underneath the teleprompter. Nobody can see them. And do you know what was really interesting? At the end of it, they came up to me and they said, that was the best one you've done so far. And I was like, do you know why? It's because the teleprompter wasn't on. The teleprompter throws me. Like it really bothers me. So don't turn the teleprompter on. And from now on, I'm just going to take my notes. But that is a great example of it, right? So I'm there and I'm talking about failures. And I've got all my bullet points. Let me go see if I can find it. If I can't, I'll be back in 20 seconds. I think I know where it is, but give me 20 seconds. Nope. Sorry about that. Can't find it. But it was just a sheet of paper and it had all my notes on it. So going back to the PowerPoint presentation, I use Keynote just because I'm a Mac user. But I actually think that the actual presentations, the fonts, the actual layouts, I think look significantly more professional in Keynote than they do in PowerPoint. The reason I'm just stalled then is something else just flashed through my mind that I want to talk about as well. So when you build out those PowerPoint presentations, what they do is that they give me the flow. So like, let's say it's like that long, right? Bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. That is my flow of of every single thing I'm going to cover. And what I do, the way I do it is this. I start on the first one, obviously, because I'm speaking. And when I've run out of stuff to talk about, then I look at the next bullet point. Usually my computer screen's right in front of me. So as I'm talking to them, you know, as I'm talking to you now, I could look down, I could see the next thing, I'm going to talk about that next. In my brain it goes. So the moment I see it and I know I'm about to run out of the first thing, then I immediately roll into the second thing. So that's how I do it. I'm all about simplicity, right? Look, I think everybody like massively overcomplicates life. And overcomplicates the way they do things. I'm like, let's just keep it simple. That's kind of what JFDI is all about. Just fucking do it. Like, don't sit there and get what do they call it? Paralysis by analysis. Just fucking do it. Like, stop wasting time. Like, get it done. So that's how I do that. So the bullet points for me, like, God, I'm giving all my tips and tricks. Those bullet points for me keep me on track, because as you've noticed with me, I digress quite a bit. And the reason I digress is because I want to give. I want to give. And sometimes when I digress, not sometimes, every time, when I digress, it's because I feel like I'm about to give you even more. But sometimes you can digress for so long that you're like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm talking about now. What the hell was I just talking about? But if you've got the PowerPoint presentation, you can look at the next bullet point and you're right back on track again. So for me, that's why I do that's why I lay them out that way. Here's another thing. When you build your PowerPoint presentations for speaking, keep them simple. They're not pretty to look at, right? Don't be having things like spinning in, and mine are stupid simple. They just bang, bullet points come up, all of them in one go, just on a white screen. I go a white screen with a dark grey letter. I think it's much more attractive than black, with a dark grey lettering, and I throw all the bullet points up in one go. And then, thank you. And then what I do is this, and this comes from experience. The moment I throw it up on the screen, I then just stand and wait for a minute. And here's why. Everyone does the same fucking thing. They go, and if you're talking to them, they're not even listening. Why? It's hilarious, right? All they want to do is write the notes down. I'm like, what are you fucking writing the notes down for? Listen to what I've got to say. But speaking in front of enough audiences, I know that these people want to write the notes down. So, and yes, I'm making notes. So what I do is that the moment I don't kind of go one bullet point and then talk and then push my little clicker and then the next bullet point goes on. I throw them all up in one go. I wait for 1-2 minutes while they write all the bullet points down, and I say to them, and I stand there and I go, all right, make your notes, I'll let you make your notes, and I just stand there, because there's no point in delivering the content at that point, because they're just not listening to you. And I like to feel that I give like really good content. That's kind of why I do this, is that I want to give of all the stuff that I've learned throughout my years and things that have worked for me. So that's what I do. Throw them up all in one go. Keep it really simple. White background. Actual put a bullet point. Do I put a bullet point next to them? I don't know. But I make sure it looks clean and tidy. I always put my brand on it. Make sure your brand is on it. My logo always sits in the bottom corner of the thing. It's branding. It's all about branding. And then once they've stopped and they've put their pens down, which literally is just like a minute or two, then I start to deliver the content. And that's how I do it. So, and then here's another thing I like to do. I like to interact with the audience. having sat in those seats for so many years like I had, I knew I didn't want to be a boring speaker. I wanted to be energetic and like full of life, and like where people are kind of going, oh, this guy's like fun. It's not like a boring thing. This guy's fun. And I'll tell you, I did a seminar in Tampa one time, which was my home audience, and I don't know, it was maybe about 300-400 people for the entire weekend. And I was like, look, this was my opening line. My opening line was, so this is my home city, you're my home audience, I expect the absolute best from you guys. I was like, the more, and I say this to every audience too, I feed off your energy. So the more energy you give me, the more you're interested in this, the more you make me want to give you more. But if you sit there and you're like, then in my head I'm like, fuck 'em. Which is terrible as a speaker, right? But hey, at least I'm fucking truthful, right? So I'm more like, fuck that. I'm like, and I remember, actually, I'll tell you this. This is a true story. This is a true story. This is actually one of my most, I also actually go down as one of the most amazing moments in my life, actually. I was speaking in Dallas, and in front of about 200 people. And the first day, it was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. Talk about low on energy. And it was just like, I'm like, hey, let's do this, and I'm going to give you this. And if they've got questions, I want to make sure I answer those questions. I want people to walk away and go, oh my God, like I got so much from this. So I'm talking to this audience in Dallas, and honestly, they could have sucked the life out of a Queen reunion concert. Like, it was brutal, and it was bringing me down. Like it was like genuinely bringing me down. It was hard work, and I stopped halfway through, and there was like a table like sitting on the side, like up high, and I jumped onto this table, and I sat on the table, and I looked at the audience, and I said, I've got to be honest with you guys. I'm like, you're making this really hard work for me. I'm not sure if you even have the balls to do that now. I guess I'd been speaking quite a bit at that point. No, I would have. Of course, I have the balls to do it now. But I'm an honest person, right? I'm like, look, like, you want, and this is what I said to him. I'm like, do you want to be here or do you not want to be here? If you don't want to be here, then don't be here. You know, I want you to be here because you want to be here, not because, you know, you've either paid your money to be here or somebody wants you to be here. Be here because you want to be here. And help me out. Help me help you. So they picked up a bit. To be fair, they picked up a bit, and that was on Saturday. So that night, I'm sitting in my room, and I'm kind of going over my slides for Sunday. And I'm like, you know what? I'm so sick of this audience. I'm like, I'm not going to try and be the funny Ian, the light-hearted, giggly, silly. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to give them the content. Fuck it. I'm just going to give them the content. So I walk in on Sunday, and I set up my laptop and get it all hooked up, and everything's working. My clicker's working, checking everything. All right, we're good. And the audience starts to come in. And this girl, and then all of a sudden, they all sit down, and I go walk into the front of the room. And as I go walk into the front of the room, this girl stands up, and she's like, woo, yeah, come on, woo, woo, woo. And then the next minute, and this is God's honest truth, the next minute, another person stands up and does the same thing. And then another person stands up and does the same thing. And then the entire audience stand up and they do the same thing. And I'm like, I'm utterly, utterly dumbfounded. And I'm standing there and I'm like, clearly the organizers of the event have said something, right? So I'm just looking around and I'm like, wow. So they sit down and they're going crazy. Woo! Yeah, yeah, woo! And I'm like, what? Like, what have these guys been taking? So I'm sitting there, or I'm standing there, and they calm down and they stop, and I'm like, wow, thanks guys, like, holy shit, like, talk about a change in mood, like, what happened? So anyway, long story short, I end up, we have a great Sunday, and we finish the event, and I go out with the organisers of the event. And one person of the, one of the organisers of the event looks at me and they looked at me and they said, I've been doing this for however many years, with however many speakers. I have never seen an audience do that before. And I was like, well, yeah, but didn't you tell them to, you know, I guess you've said something to them about it, right? You must have said something to get their energy up. And they were like, we didn't say a word to them. We didn't say a word. They did that on their own. And I was like, it was unbelievable. I get chills just thinking about it. It was unbelievable. It was it literally was unbelievable. Thank you. It is a cool story. It's actually cool to relive it a bit, to be honest. So, there we go, digressed, but pull it back. So I'm speaking in Tampa in front of this, you know, good-sized audience. Long story short, I had the best of all the speaking events I've done. It was hands down the best event. By the end of the event, and again, it's because I know, being British, I can be a little bit more cocky, a little bit more cheeky, get away with stuff that other people wouldn't get away with, but deliver it in a cool, funny, interesting, light-hearted way, right? So, but literally, by the end of this 2-day seminar in Tampa, like the entire room were best mates. Everyone was best friends. We were laughing and joking, and actually, I recorded the entire thing. I just so happened to have recorded it, but the hard drives broke, and I'm trying to do a data recovery off these hard drives and see if I can pull them back from the hard drives. But really, 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 really awesome. There was such a cool event, and I made a ton of friends. You know, home city, so I made a ton of friends, and yeah, it was a really, really, really awesome moment. But so digressed a little bit about talk about the Tampa story. So talking about what other advice can I give? So obviously I've explained about the PowerPoint presentation. That's really important. Make it clean and simple. Don't have it flash. Give them a chance to write their notes down, and then deliver the content. And then what I would say is this. Because I like to interact with the audience, I like to walk into the audience. I like to walk, and I make eye contact with everybody, right? Because I know what it's like. I never wanted to be one of those speakers that was disconnected from the audience, right? You know when you've been to seminars and you're listening to people talking, and you're like, these people are so above my level that I can't connect with what they're saying. I can't connect with that individual. They think that they deliver all this stuff, but hey Washington, nice to see you, mate. Because they deliver the content from a macho bravado, I'm so fucking better than you are. You feel very disconnected from the whole thing. So I never wanted to be one of those speakers. I wanted to be real. I wanted to be honest. And because I used to sit in the audience and I had just started speaking, I had that connection with the audience. I had that core connection. So when I deliver content, miss you too, man, I really do. So I deliver that content from my heart, from my core. And that was what I'd learned when I was watching Frank Kern. He did this thing where he was talking about talk from your core to their core. And if you do, that's how you make that core connection. And because I knew their pains, their fears, their frustrations, because they used to be mine too, and at times they still are, I was able to deliver that content and I could deliver it from one core connection to another core connection. Does that make sense? I know it makes sense. Chi-town? What's Chi-town? I don't know what that means. But awesome. So I'm delivering this content, and I want to make sure that I never lose that connection with the audience. And because I know their fears, their pains, their frustrations, their worries, all of that. Oh, is that where you are? You're in Chicago. Awesome. So I'm always making that core connection with them. So when what I do is I walk into the audience, right? And I like to walk into the audience because I like to be amongst the people, right? I like to be in. I like to get stuck in. So, and also by looking at the audience as well, they'll tell you whether they understand you or whether they don't understand you. And that's different from like doing TV stuff, because you don't get that interact. You don't get the interaction. You don't get the reaction. So when you're talking to a live audience in front, you know whether what you have said connects with the audience or if it doesn't connect with the audience, right? Because they'll go, the audience does this, and they make it very easy for you, right? They'll sit there and they'll go, mm-hmm, and then they'll go, huh? And the moment you get, huh, you know you've lost them, right? So if you've lost them, you've got another chance to like reposition it. And the best way to deliver something is through stories. It's the best way to deliver something is tell stories. And if that story didn't connect with someone, tell them a different story. Give them something that they can connect to, something that's real to them, something that makes sense to them. So that's what I do when I walk into the audience. But here's what I also do when I walk, because often you know how I said that, I look at my bullet point and I talk everything I can talk about that bullet point, and then once I've run out of that stuff to talk about, then I look at the next bullet point. Well, here's what I do. As I'm walking through the audience, and in my head I know that I'm about to run out of content soon, I turn back around as if I'm about to walk back to the front, and I look up at the screen and I see my next bullet point. And that's how I do it. Thank you. So that's how I do it. And when I'm in the audience, see, when you're at the front when you're on stage, unless your computer is right in front of you, it's very difficult to see what the next thing is without turning around. And I don't like that whole thing of turning around, because I feel it makes you not look very professional, right? So my way around that is to get into the audience, and then when I'm in the audience and I can turn as if I'm walking back, and so I kind of walk. So let's say the stage is here, right? Let's say I'm the stage. So, and let's say out here, the screen is the audience, right? What I do is I walk out and I talk to the people, and I look at everybody, and I'm interacting and stuff like that as I'm giving the information. And you'll tell, because they'll be looking like right at you. And then as I'm running out, I'll turn around and I'll start to walk back to the stage. As I start to walk back to the stage, now I've got the screen in front of me. Now I've got the next bullet point, and I can keep moving forward. Here's something else I would say as well. Only ever talk about shit. See, I'm British, I swear, it just is what it is, I'm sorry. Only ever talk about stuff that you're really knowledgeable on. Don't cover something that you're not that knowledgeable on, because sometimes someone in the audience can ask you a question that you may be utterly flawed on. However, there are times, even when I'm talking about stuff that I'm very knowledgeable on, there are times that I don't have the answer for it either. So I'm going to give you the answer that my father used to give me when I used to work for my parents' business and be in sales. And he would say, all you do is you turn to them and say, honestly, I don't know the answer to that, but I'll find out and I'll let you know. And that's what I do. So when I don't know the answer to something, that's what I say to people. I say, honestly, I really don't know the answer to that, but I'm going to find it out and I'm going to let you know. And I do, and usually if there are people at the back of the room, what I do is I use the people at the back of the room to help me out, and I go, can you just make a note of that for me, please? Just make a note and then give that to me and that's what I do. So I interact with the people in the back of the room too. So like if there's a question or if there's something happened, I'll speak to them at the back. Could you and here's another thing. Always make sure you've got water. Always make sure you've got water and you've got a supply of water. I personally like to drink out of a glass rather than a bottle because I think a bottle looks ugly. But again, it's just like individual preferences. An audience isn't going to give a shit whether you're drinking out of a bottle, whether you're drinking out of glass, whether you're drinking out of friggin' paper. They just want good content. So that's what I would say about that. Only speak about stuff that you're really knowledgeable on. And actually give a shit. Like, really give a shit about your audience. Like, really want to give. Because there are so many takers in the world, But just give. And, like, give of your heart, give of your soul. I know that when I deliver this stuff on Facebook, I give of my heart, I give of my soul. I don't hold back on anything, anywhere. Like, I give. The reason I do it, very, very, like, brutally, honestly, is because I can pull clients from this, and I do pull clients from these videos. So, now my phone's saying I've got 20% battery. That's all right, because we're going to wrap up soon anyway. It's been a long one tonight, but honestly, I feel like I could talk about this because it's something I'm really passionate about, and I'm all about making a difference and you know, really, really helping people out. Thank you. So yeah, what else can I give? So let's think. So set up. Rehearse it, but as you're setting it up, kind of lay your PowerPoints out, and everyone wants to flow nicely to the next. It's a bit like, you know, have it writing a story. It's got to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So make sure that you, when you set up your presentation, that it flows like that. And actually, the way I do it is I actually throw it all on like a Word document. Again, I'm a Mac user, so I use Pages. So I throw all my bullet points onto Pages. And that way, it's easier for me to view it that way. And then I copy and paste that into my keynote. Because if I feel like if I try to do it in the keynote, I lose flow. And I like to see everything in front of me all in one place, right? So that's what I tend to do. But again, I actually, believe it or not, I actually do it. I do everything on my phone. So I'll sit here at night and I'll go into my notes on my phone and I'll just start, talk about this, talk about that, and then I start, well, that needs to go before that. That wants to talk there, and then I want to put that one there, and I'm going to put that one there. And that's how I build it. And sometimes even if I'm just sitting at a bar having a drink, you know, if I'm having a drink, I kind of get a little bit creative again. So, you know, that's how I build it. And then once I've got it, I just copy and paste that into Keynote. So do that. I rehearse it a bit, at least to make sure that everything does flow together. And here's something else, that when you rehearse it a couple of times, you may go, shit, that's actually a really good point there. I need to put that down as a bullet point, because if I don't put that down as a bullet point, I might miss that, and I might forget to tell them. So that's why I rehearse it a couple of times too. And then that way, at least I know I've got everything I want to talk about. And then also, as well, when I'm delivering it on stage, I keep a notepad, I talk to the back of the room. And if I say something that I think is like really important that's not in my presentation, I'll look to the back of the room and I'll go, can you just make a note of that one for me, please? Or if you don't have anybody at the back of the room, have a pad and paper. Look, the audience don't care that you're going to do that. They actually probably look at you and go, I like him even more now because he wants to refine it and make it better and better and better. So, let's be honest about it. We live in a world nowadays where you don't have to be perfect. You know, I went to, for the first, the amount of times I had people say to me, Ian, you need to go to Toastmasters. You need to go to Toastmasters. Toastmasters. So I was like, whatever. So anyway, I decided to go to a Toastmasters. I've only been to one, and I had a bad experience, and I've never been back to one since. And I have been told they're not all like this, but they would get these people to stand up and talk, and they would say to them, right, now you're not allowed to you're not allowed to you're not allowed to repeat yourself, and if you do, we've got this little thing here that we push, and it makes a noise, and you know that you've and ahed. And I'm like, fucking hell. Like, as if, like, public speaking is not difficult enough. And now you're freaking these out, thinking, they're standing up there going, don't say an don't say an don't repeat myself. So what are they thinking all the time in their head? Repeat. I'm like, how stupid is that? Like, you're freaking them out before they've even opened their mouth. It was ridiculous. And not only that, they had me in the room who was a big public speaker. They didn't even introduce themselves to me. They didn't know that I was a public speaker. And what they should have done, and it's not about me, it's about what I can provide. They should have said, holy shit, we've got an international speaker in here that spoke over hundreds of venues all around the friggin' world. We need to get him up on stage here. We need to get him to teach the group. But they didn't even know I was there, because they didn't even come and say hi to me. I was like, it was stupid. It was so stupid. Anyway, that was my Toastmasters thing. Our group is not that strict. Yeah, so I have heard that different groups are very different. But I don't like that. Like, the truth of the matter is, and sometimes that umming and ahhing for me, it gives me a chance to reposition what I was saying. You know, and it's not about the fact of that I and ahed. Like, sometimes here's what I love about Facebook Live, right? Is that you can see in my eyes when I've hit something, or when I've found something, or when I kind of go, and I look like that, and I go, ooh, I'm going to go deeper into that. So I like that umming and the ahhing. I'm not saying it wants to be a lot, but I tend to use it differently. What I actually say is, and you've probably heard me say this on here before, I say, does that make sense? And the reason being is, I say it for two reasons. One, it gives my brain, for that brief second, a chance to just stop. Does that make sense? And I don't have to think and talk and just be at peace, even if it's just for a few seconds, right? Because when you've been speaking for a long time, like on stage for a long time, when you come off stage, you're exhausted. Like, you don't want to talk for the rest of the day, right? Men don't talk that much as it is. So when you come off stage, I'm like, the last thing I want to do is get into a conversation with someone. I'm just like, I'm so tired. Like, I'm mentally drained right now. Physically, I'm fine. I'll go for a friggin' marathon right now. But I'm not going to want to talk on my marathon. Like, just leave me alone. So I totally digress there, and this is why I should have my bullet points. But that's... What the hell was I even talking about? Brilliant. That's why you do your bullet points, just, you know, when you're speaking on stage. Because you can digress like that, and then you, like, totally forget where you're at. And then you can go back to your bullet points and go, oh, yeah, that's what I was talking about. And the audience they won't even have a clue. They won't even have a clue that you don't know what you're talking about. And sometimes when you don't know what you're talking about, you can kind of ramble a little bit, make it sound like you really do know what you're talking about. Until you kind of pick it back up in your head, and you're like, oh, that's where I'm at. Or, that's my next bullet point. Done. So, kind of have those reserves, have those stories that can help you overcome maybe messing up a little bit. That's kind of what I do. And again, that kind of comes with experience as well. But the person that you see here right now, it's the exact same guy on stage. It's the exact same guy. In all honesty, I would love to swear as much as I swear now. I'd love to be able to do that on stage, because I think it's real. And in fact, that Frank Kern, he swore a lot. But when you make $24 million in 23 hours, you can say whatever the fuck you want to say. So, you know, who's anybody there to argue with you, right? So, but that's what I like about Facebook, and that's what I like about the audience as well, is the facial reaction. I think, see, you can, when you have those stories, all of a sudden it comes back in your mind, and you go, oh, that's what I was talking about, facial and expressions and reactions. and umming and ahhing. Ding, 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 ding. Hits just come back. Umming and ahhing. So when I say, does that make sense? It gives me a chance to reflect. But more than anything else, it gives the audience an opportunity to take it, to process it, to make it their own, and go, do I get that or don't I get that? And if I don't get that, now's my opportunity to ask that question. So thank you. That's awesome. Thank you for saying that. So that's what I do, and that's how I do it. Anything else I can give? I'm like in my brain now. I'm like, so we build a presentation, practice, we speak, we set up, do the facial thing, we look at the audience, we interact with the audience. I'm walking all the way through it. No, I think I'm done. I think that's pretty much about it. It's like nearly an hour. It's pretty good, right? So, do you have any questions? Any questions you'd like to ask me before I go? Here's an interesting one. I'm exhausted. Like right now, I'm exhausted. I'm drained. But don't let you think, well, I can't ask him a question now. Ask me the question. But it's a great example. And I think one of the reasons I get so mentally drained is that I'm always searching for the way I can make the, the way I can make the content more impactful. So I think that's why I'm mentally drained, because as I'm talking, I'm searching in my brain for how can I make this even better for them? How can I really give to them? So I think that's why I get so drained when I talk. And just talking in general. And now what's interesting is this, right? Is that it's going to take me hours to wind down. And I find that as well, like when you've been speaking, although you're exhausted, I'm wired. I'm wired. So it's probably going to take me at least 2.5 hours. Just after this Facebook Live video, it's probably going to take me at least 2.5 hours. Okay. It's probably going to take me at least 2.5 hours to wind down, which is all right because I've got a ton of TV to catch up on. I've been networking so much recently that I've not even been in. So I've got a lot of TV to catch up on. So I was out tonight now. So before I go, what do I speak on? So there's 3 key areas that I feel I have a huge depth of knowledge on. The first thing is business. Like I said, my parents had a huge business. Well, to me, it was huge. I'm not saying it was like huge, but it was a big business. So being an entrepreneur and being in the entrepreneurial world, I've really studied entrepreneurs. I've studied business, and I've studied the intricacies, down to the microscopic detail of stuff. And I'm very systematic in the way I do things. So I speak on business. The other thing that I speak on is personal development. I was first introduced by my father at the age of 13 to Tony Robbins. So he was a huge influence in my life, still is. I've studied majority of his stuff since I was 13. So I love talking about personal development because, and here's actually what I learned. In fact, I'll give you another tip on public speaking right now. Here's what I learned. I learned this after speaking after maybe about the third time when I was speaking. I learned that, Tony's awesome. I learned that there is no point in delivering the content until you get them to stop freaking out, right? And so therefore, you have to hit personal development stuff first before you deliver the content, because if you just deliver the content, they're still freaking out here, which means that they can't digest that content as well. So I get into, so if I was speaking for 10 hours, 2 hours was personal development stuff, like real nitty-gritty, getting them to sit there and think and write and interact, and like real life-changing stuff, So, and what happens is this, when you, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. What happens is this, is that you make such a profound impact on their lives when you do that to them, that now you better believe you've got their full attention for when you give them the business stuff. And in fact, they fucking love you. So, so now they're like, bring on the fucking content, bring it on, we want more. So, so I always lead first with the personal development stuff. So that's the second thing that I speak on. And then the third thing that I speak on is relationships, dating, marriage, relationships, communication. And here's why. Because it's the same stuff as personal development. It's for me, I view it as human psychology. So I feel, and I'm not qualified, like I don't have any, I don't have any qualification, I'm not a fucking psychologist or anything like that. But I believe I'm extremely, hugely knowledgeable on human psychology. What drives us to do certain things? What stops us from doing certain things? So they're the three areas that I cover. Business, personal development, and dating. Because to me, personal development and dating are one of the same things. So, so yeah, that's what I talk about. And you can probably tell, I mean, I've been talking now for an hour on public speaking. And to be honest, I could probably keep going and going and going and going. And so you can imagine it actually really isn't that difficult to, that's the only problem when you do Facebook Live. You look back and you're like, well, my hair's not quite right. Stop. So it's, you can imagine after having to create, 10 hours worth of speaking content, it's actually really not that difficult, because I've spoken about an hour now just on public speaking, and to be honest, I could probably give you at least another half an hour. Thank you. I could probably give you at least another half an hour, and knowing me, I could probably fucking talk all night long anyway. So, so yeah, they're the three areas. So yeah, if anyone's even looking for like coaching or consulting or anything like that, that's what I do. Reach out to me. That's what I'm here for. That's what I've spent all of my money learning to do, is to be the best at the best at the best at what I do. Not the best at other stuff, but just at what I do, which is quite niche. It's quite specific, right? It's tight. So I definitely consider myself highly, highly knowledgeable on those three subjects. Highly knowledgeable. So yeah, reach out to me if you're looking for greater depth, greater understanding, if you're having relationship problems, marriage problems, business problems, you're not happy with where you are internally. Like I could talk for days just about personal development stuff. Like, I love it. I absolutely love it. So, so yeah. Anyway, I think I'm going to leave it there because I am exhausted. It's 10 o'clock. I'm exhausted, and I'm going to watch Survivor. I know it's kind of sad, but I'm going to watch Survivor. And then there's this awesome documentary that I'm watching right now that I'm totally hooked on. So I'm going to watch that as well. And there's a couple of British TV shows that I like to watch too. So I'm not saying I'm going to get it all done tonight, but I'm going to at least watch something that I don't have to think. So I'm probably Survivor. That's what it is. Because it's kind of like, you don't have to think. You can just kind of just watch it. You don't have to focus on it. Yeah. So, okay, so tomorrow, good point. Tomorrow, there is a chance I may not be able to do it. So this is a thing. I'm actually having a meeting with somebody who is really up there on social media. In fact, she's the one that's got me doing this again. So I have a meeting with her tomorrow. I am going to see if we together can do a video. But I don't know whether that's going to happen. I can't promise it. Because to be honest, a couple of drinks may have happened, and that. So I'm just warning. There is a chance that it might not happen. But if you want, feel free to reach out to me via Messenger, and if we can do it, we'll do it, because I want to do a video with her, and I know that she's got really, really, really profound content, and it would be awesome. But it's more of a social business thing, so there's a chance drinks may have happened and it might not happen. So that's what I would say. Anyway, with that being said, thanks very much. I appreciate you taking your time to listen to me. You could be doing anything tonight. Remember your 30-day challenge. I know. And she's the one that set the 30-day challenge, by the way. So that's what I'm going to say to her. That's going to be my excuse, but don't tell her. So, yeah. So again, like I like to end these, I appreciate that you have taken your time to watch me tonight. Tonight? God, that sounded very American. Tonight. Yeah, I mean, it's 10 o'clock on a Thursday night. You could be doing anything, but you choose to watch me, so I really appreciate that. And I respect your time. I look forward to being able to give you more stuff again, even if it's for a few minutes. If the drinks haven't gone too far, I will be there. I will be there. And I am going to tell her that I wanted to do this. So, I promise I'll do my absolute best. But again, feel free to message me, and then I can show her and go, look, they want a video. Even let's just do 5 minutes right now. So, and as long as we're not too far gone, I'll do it. Yeah. So with that being said, thank you. Enjoy your night. It's 10 o'clock, or it's 7 o'clock if you're on the West Coast. And have a great night. And I will see you. I'll do my best. I promise I'll do my best to see you tomorrow night. And I will do my best. I promise you I will do my best. All right. Have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow night. Bye-bye.